Hello, my name's David Greenwood. I'm a partner at the executive search firm Odgers Berndtson, based in Dubai. In continuation of a series of interviews I've been conducting over the last few months, one area that I've not touched upon is the role of the board, and in particular the role of the board in a crisis. I'm very pleased to welcome Jim Zaza, who's currently on the line in the US. A little background on Jim. Jim is a senior executive, board director and advisor, splits his time between the US and London, has been serving on a number of roles in Odgers Holding. Odgers is a Turkish-based food manufacturer with over 300 brands in 100 countries, with 56,000 employees, turning over $10 billion. Jim was involved in the acquisition of United Biscuits and Godiva, and he's also sat on a number of senior roles within Pladis holding company, integrating Uka, United Biscuits, Godiva, and Demet's Candy Confectionery Company. Part of his tenure has been involved in recruiting a strong leadership team for Godiva, entering new markets such as the Middle East, China, and Asia Pac, which include double-digit growth in a very short period of time. Prior to that, Jim spent 15 years with PepsiCo and actually was a president of the Middle East region within his time. Welcome to the call, Jim.
Thank you, David.
My first question, which is quite an open-ended question, is what role the board, or in your opinion, what role the board has played within such crisis that we're currently in now? Can you just give me a bit of an overview on the role that you've played and what your opinion is during these difficult times?
Yeah, David, I think this crisis, first, it has caught all of us by surprise, but I think also it has changed a bit the norms of interaction between the board and the management, the CEO particularly. When you look at the major shift that had happened, obviously initially we had to move from I see you, I react to your facial expressions, we can discuss, argue, debate, whatever it is, to more of a kind of a virtual setup. And for that we had to obviously do the proper preparations. One is to establish the protocol, obviously. One is what do we do with our cybersecurity? What do we do with the usual document retentions and stuff. But then also to kind of agree with the CEO on the frequency of interaction, because initially you interact maybe chairman of the company. I interact more frequently with the CEO and the shareholders. But in reality, the board interacts, let's say, once every 2 or 3 months, depending on the situations, and that we had to also kind of bring to a major shift from us asking the big questions to us partnering, more partnering with the CEO and becoming really the kind of the sounding board, but also the kind of a conduit between, in reality, taking the load off the CEO's shoulders, right? Because obviously, the crisis hit. There are issues, anything from safety to businesses not being run the same, to consumers reacting differently, to partners and distributors, and you name it. The world has kind of suddenly became scrambled in front of the CEO. The role of the board can't anymore say, hey, listen, what do we do here, and why are you doing that, and why you should be doing. In reality, we moved away from that to more saying, listen, we need to partner, and to partner, first of all, let's agree on how do we interact with you, Mr. CEO, management, and how our committees actually come in to talk and understand how we are responding to COVID, which is a very, very important part of this whole crisis. The second part is we need to help you understand today and try to use our own individual experiences and relationship with the outside world to help you see what's happening in each bucket of your business, and where are we kind of hitting a wall, where things are really accelerating, where things are changing, and try to make sure that we bring in our expertise to help you and to make your team feel comfortable that we are partners and not boards that we need, you need to put the questions to us. So that partnership aspect is very important. The second side is trying to really kind of look at the situation and say, okay, well, while we are assessing the crisis, while we're making sure that we are responding to every kind of bucket of impact, if you will, to mostly looking at part of saying, okay, so what if and what's next, and that's the situation where you need to look at the strategic kind of thought process moving forward. That's where the board can help quite a bit. And there, I think that the situation is more about, I mean, the way we are actually looking at it right now, and I'm going to talk specifics without mentioning any names, obviously, and company, is that we're looking at kind of, listen, we don't know. This is very, very unpredictable. The outcome, the next new, if you will, the consumer reactions, the market shifts, still very much, unknown to us. So we cannot just move on a strategic direction. We need to move more into a scenario direction. So strategic scenario planning is going to be very important. That one. The second part is shareholders are obviously very anxious. The business is changing, the markets are changing, and of course there's an impact financially on some of our businesses, specifically being the specific nature of the business. And that obviously the interaction of the board, making sure that they do take over the communication with shareholders as much as possible to alleviate the burden on the kind of the shoulder of the CEO. Again, a lot said here, but I would say we got to move into partnership, but we are making sure that we do not get into the details and become the executors in the business. We don't want to overwhelm management, at a time when management needs to really be freed of all the aspects of the, I don't call it nuisance, but the new kind of questions that are arising and the issues that are arising, to more kind of, hey, let me do my work, try to help me, make sure that you bring your expertise here and partner with me in making sure that we do bring this business back on track as much as possible.
Jim, on the big piece within your number of companies you've advised on, as obviously supply chain is deeply affected with such a crisis. Would you suggest that the way that the supply chain has actually evolved and will continue to evolve with so many brands over so many markets, is there things that you've learnt that you will then take forward? We're all talking about the second wave now. Is there any learnings that you've learned? Maybe you set it up some years ago that's now come to fruition, it's actually worked.
Well, I think we're seeing it. Obviously there is a shift in technology, and there's an acceleration and transformation needed for technology. Why? Consumers are relying more on e-commerce, online ordering. They don't want to get to the store sometimes they don't want to get to, they're being careful, they're being safe. And in reality, what we're seeing is there is a very considerable shift to online ordering. But that also, many companies have been caught unprepared on that, because, you talk e-commerce, and e-commerce usually is a small percentage of your business, grows, well, China is different than other countries, but in reality, it grows quite suddenly, quite significantly. So we have to be, very well prepared in actually making sure that we have the technological capabilities to actually address that sudden shift. And that has been very challenging, I have to admit. The second part is, we do have, remember that we have different types of businesses. We have businesses that are retail boutiques that have a completely different kind of, supply chain management, if you will, versus the go-to-market system that you employ in our snacking business. In that part, we have to ensure also that the frontline, our frontline people, the team members, are being protected and safe, obviously, because they are interacting with customers, they are going to the retail stores, they're making sure that the product is delivered on time, and so we had to ensure that, obviously, one is that we are kind of consolidating our delivery system. So therefore, we had to ensure that our people are focused on where they need to focus versus a blanket coverage of distribution. We had to prioritize quite a bit in that way. The second side is we wanted to make sure also that we partner with outside, resources to ensure that our delivery systems, especially in the e-commerce side of the business, is actually efficient and effective, and the products are delivered when they are promised to be delivered. The part that we have, my only experience is that on the snacking side, the go-to-market and the logistics and the supply chain has been quite, I would say, quite systematic and quite, operating in the way it was expected to be operated. On the boutiques front, obviously, that's a bit different, because the business suddenly stopped and then had to resume in different phase 1, phase 2, phase 3s, and that had a whole different aspect to dealing with it, and it kind of I have to say we had to rely on a lot of outside experience in actually helping us move towards a better approach to dealing with these sudden shifts.
What do you think in the last few years that you've advised on or been part of an advisory team that's actually had a real positive impact within this crisis, that you sort of look back on in hindsight and think, I'm really pleased we put that in place?
Look, I think beyond the hardcore of matters, I think the way you work with the management, forms the basis of continuing to work very efficiently, productively, and in reality very added value, because you do form that relationship with the CEOs, with the senior management team, and they see you as a partner, right? They don't see Jim Zaza as someone coming from outside to make sure that he finds something wrong with what we're doing. But Jim Zaza has been with us. He's in the office. I'm usually in London quite a bit, and I sit with management, and I'm more open to actually listen to them and allow them to come and talk to me when they have their issues. And so that has helped. That is really definitely something that has helped us quite a bit. The other parts, I mean, the CEOs have been working very hard on kind of optimizing the supply chain, and this has been years in the work, from the early CEOs that came in to now current CEOs. That is very, very much important. The other part that's important, and that is when you talk about the management of revenue, the revenue management part of it, how you ensure that you focus and maintain, the right products in the right place at the right margin. And so that helps you, because you're so consolidated, you're creating virtuous cycles, and those virtuous cycles, although they give you a great flexibility and, of course, positive impact in terms of the funding that you can create to actually reinvest, that particular aspect comes to very good use during the crisis, basically. So those are elements of, and I have to say, the one other part which is very, very important for me personally, and that is building the right capabilities, not only for today, but what's going to come in, around the corner in the morning. And we do have over the last, I would say, 10 years, and I can say that very comfortably, me being associated with the group, we have done everything in terms of making sure that we have the right capabilities in place, the right talent, the right leadership, and forming that purpose of, while things are changing around us, our mission, our vision, who we are, will remain the same. Those are the things that don't change. And that's what helps you when you come into a crisis, because these are anchors for you, right? Your mission, your vision, your purpose, and when everything starts getting crazy around you, at least you have to make sure that the team realizes that certain things, our commitment to excellence, commitment to our customer service, the product quality, the innovation, those have to remain the same, and that's what formulates the strengths going forward.
If you had to give one tip to a board member or a chair of a board, what particularly within this crisis, what one tip would you say you had to do if you were to stand in front of an audience and say, there's one thing you should do during a crisis, what should it be? What would you say?
Well, I think, in crisis, we have to ensure that we have a very consistent messaging, if you will, internally and externally, right? And that messaging has to be in kind of complete understanding, cooperation, and collaboration with the CEO and the senior management team. Because when a board member kind of goes off a tangent and the management is in different places, you tend to create confusion in the company and then to the outside stakeholders as well, right? So you have to ensure that you have utmost alignment, right, in terms of what is our message, how we are moving forward, what are we going to do, how we're going to interact, and how we're going to support each other in this. Because the board needs support of the CEO as much as the CEO needs the support of the board. So if this is really, although it's intangible, but it has a great impact on the tangibles. I believe me, those are matters that I hold in great value, and I think this is very important. Sadly, sometimes board members, and I'm not saying within the company, but I've observed during different, is that they kind of, they're the gang ho, they want to come in and fix the world, and they kind of alienate management. That doesn't work in crisis. It doesn't work anytime, but specifically in crisis, it won't work.
And my last question, Jim, because I'm conscious of your time. I get lots of questions about, individuals, previous CEOs or current CEOs looking for their first appointment on a board, and whatever capacity that is, whether it's a risk committee or a remuneration committee. Now, having gone through this, what advice would you give to someone that wants to make that first appointment to a board? What value do they need to bring?
Well, I think the point, the biggest value is that you got to speak out, you got to have an opinion, you got to have an open opinion. What happens to the boards mostly is you create what we call a club over time. I think the reason we bring a board member in, we don't bring them in to agree with everything we say. We bring them in because they have a perspective, they have a specific experience that they bring to the board. The board member that comes in has to first and foremost understand exactly the listening part is going to be the quite a important part of understanding the dynamics within the board structure, the interaction with the shareholders. Shareholders a lot of times are part of the board, so we need to understand what they are really kind of looking forward to. What are they? What's their dreams? What's their vision? How are they looking at this business? But I think the board, the Me Too aspect of a board member has no value. You got to be, you have got to bring your specific experience in the place and really make it work, and ensure that this is you're more of a mentor to the CEO and to other board members in the area of expertise that you bring. I think that's important, because otherwise you're a body sitting on a chair and kind of using your time. And I think it's important to differentiate yourself. It's important to bring value in the areas that you're experienced. You cannot be experienced at everything. We bring you in because you're specifically good at a certain part of what we need on the board. And I think that is the important part, that you demonstrate that. But you have to listen first. You have to understand the business. You have to understand the dynamics, and then you contribute, where you are best at.
I know that was my last question before, but I've got another question for you.
Sure.
Boards will naturally evolve like any business, and I'm seeing a lot of younger generations and specific skill sets, particularly in that digitalization, joining boards, and I think it's absolutely a long time coming. What do you see? What changes do you see in the future for boards, and what do you think the boards will look like in the future?
Well, I think we got to really look now at diversity. You know, I think it is important for the board to reflect its consumer makeup, if you will, and most boards don't right now. And to do that, I think I see boards that have a diverse makeup, a reflection of your consumers, a reflection of the customers that you serve. But also, I think we're going to see a little bit more shift towards people that have technology expertise, transformation. You know, because what we see right now, and again, this is not just the boards that I serve in, and I've been on different platforms the last few weeks just to understand. There is definitely, there is a shift and a transformation in the technology area, but most of the companies see themselves really short of that particular experience. So we're going to see more technology experts on the boards. We're going to see more diverse boards. And I think we probably one aspect of it is we would hopefully, because look, there will be the new kind of way of doing things, and I think the board will probably be more interactive with management going forward but I'm not saying this is going to be the future part of it. I think it's going to be a transition towards more when things settle down. I think the board will move back, but we will see this for the next 2 to 3 years, I would say.
My very last question. Do you see a new board position being created post-crisis?
I not board positions per se, but I would say more new committees. Okay, I think we will see, while we have the audit committee and what have you, I think we will see more committees that deal with crisis, committee that will be dealing with specific aspect of technology transformation. We will see those committees, I think, that were not in the past. We'll see them more on the boards these days and going forward.
Jim, thank you. I appreciate your time this morning, and I wish you all the very best within the number of advisory and board positions you're currently working towards. And I know many of my network within the Middle East send their best regards, and I hope to talk to you very again soon. Thanks very much.
Thanks, David. Take care and stay safe, okay? All right.
Thank you.
All the best. Bye-bye.